Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We begin deep in the atmosphere. These are the upper level winds, the winds where the atmospheric pressure is at 250 millibars. Now, what does that mean? Well, normal standard sea level pressure is about 1,000 millibars. So we're up in the atmosphere where the pressure has been reduced by about 75%, or down to 250 millibars. And the winds up here can be very, very fast, and they are right here. That's the main branch of our jet stream. And it's hanging out right on that US-Canada border, and it's moving very quickly over the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. But if you're south of it, in the southern region of the United States, our upper level flow is quite weak. And so much of our forecast is going to be on the position of that upper level ridge and where it moves, how it slides, because if it stays in the pattern you see right there, well, we get very, very typical summer weather across the southern region. All right. Gulf of Mexico is wide open underneath this. We have plenty of moisture, which means we're just going to get daily thunderstorm activity. In fact, if you were to look at your favorite weather app, or you were to go to weather.gov and look, you'd probably see that your forecast holds a lot of mid-90 temperatures with a 30 to 50% chance of rain every day. That's what you get when you get a flow pattern in the jet stream. Looks just like this. Now, before I show you the surface flow, I want to talk about two other things. First of all, in my Monday morning video, I believe that I called that tropical system right over here in the East Pacific Alvin. Well, Alvin was last week. Alvin was gone. That's Barbara. And I'll show you Barbara in a few seconds because this is a pretty strong hurricane right now. The other thing I want to show you is this. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, these winds here, okay, are over the top of the surface trade winds. So we have some very fast winds aloft going through parts of the Caribbean, going over parts of the open Atlantic, and those stronger winds aloft are increasing wind shear. And that increase in wind shear means that these trade winds, which you see right in through this area, are not going to basically provide the perfect environment for tropical thunderstorm development. And a lot of us in the Southeast are quite happy about that because we'd like to avoid having, any major tropical disruptions at this time of year. So the higher wind shear environment in the Atlantic, keeping the Atlantic quite quiet. Now, remember, our jet stream flow pattern is doing something like that. And that's why you see this low pressure system sitting right in through here. We're dominated by higher atmospheric pressure over the Southeast, and you can just see the Gulf of Mexico moisture coming up into the United States. We're going to have no trouble bringing moisture into the country under this particular flow pattern. So with that as the setup, where are we going in terms of temperatures and precipitation? And let's start off first, though, understanding that upper level flow pattern and how it's going to change our temperature and precipitation patterns. Ready? So I'm animating for you just the next 15 days. Every 6 hours is what's going by here. And what we see here is that this flow pattern is going to be one that I think is going to be quite favorable in terms of weather conditions across the southern region for normal summer weather. So let's just watch this. I got you out here on a Wednesday into Thursday and into the evening of the 4th of July. What do we feature by the evening of the 4th of July? Well, you can still see that there's a trough feature that's kind of sitting right in through this area, but a broader ridge sitting here. So we're going to be seeing over the next several days much warmer than average temperatures across much of the Southeast. But we need to pay attention to where these troughs and ridges move in the coming days. So let's just take a look at this. Ready? What is dominating our flow pattern is this. This ridge over this trough. We call this a high over low pattern. It's also called the negative phase of the East Pacific Oscillation, and it is going to shift the troughs and ridges around the United States quite a bit. Now watch what I mean here. This is now the 6th of July, 7th of July, 8th, and 9th. Now by that time period, you notice that we're across the U.S., we have a major trough feature sitting right here. But I want you to watch what happens right in this area, okay, right here between the Great Lakes and the Hudson Bay. Because as we get past the 9th and 10th, watch where the trough then finds itself. Ready? There it is. This is the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Now that's an important flow pattern because what is it doing? It's doing something a bit like this. Now, if the models have this right, heat builds west and heat builds down here close to the Gulf of Mexico, but this trough feature is going to keep the northern part of the southern region much closer to average in terms of temperatures, avoiding some pretty serious summer heat. So let's talk about this, okay? Let's start off first by what we get in terms of precipitation. This is an animation just showing you through the next 36 hours. This gets us out to middle of the day on Wednesday, what we're looking at in terms of thunderstorm activity. Now, right now, we're not too concerned across the southern region about broad areas of severe weather, but each one of these individual thunderstorm clusters will have the potential to not only put down very heavy rainfall, locally very heavy rainfall and flash flooding, but some small hail and at times some very gusty winds. The outflow of these thunderstorms, the downdraft, can at times produce severe winds just briefly, but not any sort of widespread event as you see here. So if I picked out a spot where I think the hail threat might be greatest today, it's going to be over there in New Mexico and Texas and parts of Oklahoma. Get east of there, we're going to be just seeing a lot of very, very heavy local downpours of rain. And this is just normal of summertime convective pattern. Diurnal, which means daily thunderstorm activity, just getting you all the way through your day on Wednesday. Now going beyond that, I want to show you this. What we've got here is precipitation totals through the next week. So I got you out to next Tuesday morning. And if you kind of just label a corridor in the United States that's looking to be the wettest, it's kind of this area right in through here. And that's because we have a lot of what we call northwest flow aloft that's setting up in this flow pattern. Now, under that ridge, we're going to get what are called these ridge riding thunderstorms. And they're going to come right around like this, which is why as I animate this forward, let's just press play on this. There we go. We see that through Tuesday morning, our main thunderstorm axis is up way up there in the Great Plains and parts of the Great Lakes states. But watch, as you move forward, see the storms adding up in parts of Texas, Louisiana. See them starting to fill in by the time we get into the end of the week. This is now the 4th of July. That's the evening of the 4th of July. Moving forward, every single new frame is just adding more precipitation due to these pop-up showers and thunderstorms on this weaker upper level flow. And that means that by the time we get out to just 10 days, we've got a corridor in through here where we may have an additional 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. This is just very typical summertime weather. No big organized low pressure systems, just Gulf moisture, weak upper level flow, at times northwest flow, and what we end up getting, well, the atmosphere is open for business and it's going to make a lot of rain. Plus there's a lot of moisture in the soil to the north of the southern region that can be coming down on the northwest flow as well. So that's what we're getting. Now you're going, wait a minute, over here I don't see much precipitation. Well, you still have a chance every day of pop-up showers and storms. So remember, the European model is a lower resolution than the HRB, which I just showed you. So you're still going to see precip, but maybe a little bit drier, put a little D over it in this area compared to the southeast. All right, so that's precipitation. Let's now talk temperatures. Yep, we're very warm compared to average over the next 5 days here in the southeast. A little bit of a cooler pattern right in here coming out of Texas into parts of Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And again, some more cloud cover. We talked about this last time. More cloud cover and slightly cooler temperatures. Moving to days 6 through 10, let's take a look at what we got here. Warm across much of the southern region. Because remember, at this time, the flow pattern's still doing something more like this. But check this out. By the time we get to the 11 to 15 day forecast, that's the GFS on the right, the European on the, the GFS on the left, the European on the right. We've now got ourselves over into that northwest flow pattern again with the trough here, big ridge building heat out west, and there's your northwest flow. So you get cooler weather in the Corn Belt, warm that surrounds it, and that is where we're going by the time we get to mid-July. So that's been advertised in the models for a while. I'm impressed with model consistency here, but that's what we got all the way out to, like I said, middle of July. Now let's take a look at some of the individual temperatures each day this week, given it is a holiday week for us in the U.S. We see that we're starting off on Tuesday. Look at your high temperatures here, getting close to the century mark across much of the southeast. Meanwhile, mid-90s back across much of the rest of the southern region. As I click play, let's get out to Wednesday here. Again, another scorcher over the southeast. But you can see through here, upper 80s, lower 90s, getting just to the west of the lower Mississippi River Valley. And then as is typical for this time of year, temperatures getting up into the lower to mid 90s across parts of Texas and New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas. By the time we get into the 4th of July, here we go. We see very hot, muggy nights setting up across much of the southeast and over here in parts of Texas and New Mexico. We will see again maybe some natural fireworks as the afternoon pops with storms in the evening. They kind of ride through the evening hours in addition to the man-made ones we're going to be seeing on that night. And as we progress through, this is now Friday's high temperatures. Take a look there. A lot of mid-90s. Getting into Saturday, again, a lot of mid-90s. And getting over into Sunday, same story. And this is just very normal of our summertime weather, all right? So with that, let's just change up gears a little bit, go back to the tropics. A lot of us were seeing this particular tropical wave here, this big cluster of thunderstorms coming off of the west coast of Africa, and we're quite concerned about it. But watch this, let me get that drawing off there. It encounters some drier, dusty air, and it is just gone. We can see that across much of the tropical Atlantic, there's not a whole lot going on this time of year. Now, where do we normally see activity? It tends to come out of, the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico, or right here out of the Western Atlantic. In other words, if I were to circle historically where we have our most tropical activity in the month of July, it's here. Now, as August and September arrive, then we have to watch this whole area back here where I'm coloring now. That's called the Main Development Region, MDR, back there. But we've got nothing really going on right now in the tropics. Even though ocean temperatures, look at this, they're much warmer than average. We see temperatures here that are very supportive of hurricane development, but why are we not seeing any hurricanes? Why is this Tropical Prediction Center and also the National Hurricane Center saying not only in the next couple of days, but next 5 days, nothing going on? Well, wind shear is high, dust content is high, and the upper levels of the atmosphere, look at the graph that's over here on the right. They're focusing a lot of the best support in the upper levels over in the East Pacific, where Barbara is right now. Even through the next week, it stays there. It may not be till the middle and end of July where we start to bring some better upper level support to the tropical Atlantic to start to see some systems go. But remember, we got to have warm sea surface temperatures, good upper level divergence. We've got to have no wind shear and no dust. If we get all that, then we start to get tropical systems developing. It also takes a good easterly wave to make that happen as well. And we're just not seeing it quite yet. So a little bit of a delay in tropical activity as we progress through our hurricane season. To finish this up, I want to talk about one last thing here, and it's kind of a tease for my long-range forecast tomorrow. I've got you out to the last week of July. And what do we see here? We still see our ridge out west. We see the flow pattern that's broadly doing something like this, which is why the heat stays out west and in the western part of the southern region. We get much more seasonable temperatures inside that region here. These models are not going to be able to do a good job on picking up on precipitation patterns, but this is not a pattern that brings major drought to any part of the southern region. Okay, so let's just kind of leave it at that as we wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to all of our forecasts coming out this week on my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.